is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so I wanted to share my personal experience on this topic. I talk about this in my book, but I haven't discussed it much on my vlog, so this might be something that you don't know about me. First, let's talk about the broader issue. 1 in 5 women and girls are molested or sexually assaulted in their lifetime, according to current statistics for the United States. Some studies point to an even higher prevalence, such as the fact that 1 in 4 women experience sexual assault while on a college campus. Men and boys are also being abused, with about 25% of all men experiencing sexual violence in their lifetime. We have to talk about this. We have to make people accountable for their actions. We have to remove the stigma surrounding this topic. Sexual assault, including molestation and rape, contribute to mental health issues for many people. My life's mission is to educate and raise awareness about mental health, so these two topics go hand in hand. When I was a child, I experienced sexual abuse by a neighborhood man who exposed himself to me hundreds of times and stalked me between the ages of 5 and 14 years old. And I was also molested by some boys in my neighborhood. People are often shocked to learn this about me because I grew up in a small town where I still live to this day and seem to have had the perfect childhood. But that should prove that sexual assault is just more prevalent than we even know. For a long time, I didn't see myself as a victim. When I was a kid, I thought everybody did this. I thought this was a normal part of life and that every kid was experiencing this. It wasn't until I began mimicking these behaviors with others and they told me it wasn't okay that I realized that what was happening to me was not normal. I've since come to realize, especially through things like the Me Too movement, that I am a victim of sexual abuse. If you're a victim, first and foremost, you need to know that it is not your fault. You did not do anything to cause or encourage your assault. And if you didn't tell anyone about it, it's not your fault if it happened again. You are a victim, not a contributor to your abuse. So, if you're an adult watching this, please make sure that the kids in your care know that it's okay to talk to you about anything that goes on in their lives, including and especially those things that they might be scared or ashamed to talk about. Be that safe space for them. And if you're watching this as someone who has experienced abuse in their lifetime, please talk to someone. Get the help and support you need, whether that's from a counselor, a friend, a family member, or going to law enforcement. I included my stories of sexual abuse in my book because those stories need to be told. I have healed from that trauma and I have forgiven those who hurt me, but I will never condone or excuse their behavior. It's unfair that it happened to me, and it's unfair that sexual abuse happens to such a large percentage of women and girls, as well as to men and boys. Not dealing with sexual abuse can have long-term consequences. As a result of the sexual abuse I suffered, I acted out. I made poor choices and behaved rebelliously as I got into my teen years. It also affected my mental and emotional health. But know this, healing and restoration are possible. Your future is not defined by things that happened in your past. I'm living proof that we can be resilient and overcome terrible things in our lives. While we can't control what happens to us, and things like this are completely undeserved, we can control how we move on from these traumas with counseling. This is important for you to know. It is very, very hard to move on without help from others. I found a lot of healing through counseling, through my faith, and in talking to people who I feel safe with. I knew that I had to let it go in order to move on and have healthy relationships in my life. And the only way to let it go was to get help in my healing process. But also, don't be surprised when feelings of anger or fear or shame come up again. That's normal. Working on doing things that help your healing and restoration. And so work on those things. It doesn't happen on its own. It's there. It's really helpful to talk this out with trusted counselors and trusted people. So I hope that by sharing my story that it will empower you to share yours. There are a lot of victims out there who have either not told anybody or tried to bury it. I can promise you that there is healing and opening up and getting it out into the open. And if you tried to bury it, please do what it takes to face what you've been through. I have a whole chapter in my book about stuffing it, so I can promise you it doesn't work to just bury it. I would love to know if this resonated with you. If you know someone who has been sexually abused, please share this with them. As I said earlier in this video, we need to remove the shame around these experiences. We need to stand together to support victims and work together to make sure this doesn't happen to others. Thanks for joining me.